But there also just feels like there's a division between the face and the body, and how people are more inclined to compliment her body before her face, because her face is very West African coded. Her face is someone who she looks fully black. She is a fully black, gorgeous girl. Like, it really angered me how the only redeemable element of Serena Williams to a lot of people was her body. And I can't help but notice that the people who y'all don't want to compliment their face or see their face as like actually gorgeous, or who are monoracially and look fully black, like that is when somehow the conversation, the fixation becomes about the body.
Sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to? There is nothing I can say.
Hi, welcome to Mayowa's World. Hi, y'all. Welcome to Mayowa's World. My name is Mayowa, and on my platform, I talk about colorism, featureism, texturism. Today, we're going to be talking about colorism. But before I get into any of that, y'all, I'm so proud of myself. I knitted this throw. Like, I'm going to show y'all it standing up because this might be like over 6 feet, but it took a couple months. I love knitting. I feel like I can get really hyper focused on knitting. And so now that I've finished this, I'm excited to like move on to other hobbies, like finally reading another book. So I haven't read a book in some months. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like my throw and the color. And yes, I also want to thank everyone who engaged with my last video. I really enjoyed reading the comments. Y'all are so funny. So today we're going to be talking about a viral tweet I had that brought on a large amount of hate for something that I think is actually pretty simple, and I wanted to talk about it more here. So a couple weeks ago, I tweeted, "Y'all only love dark-skinned girls when the body's tea." And I just thought that was a pretty simple tweet. It was something I had been reflecting about when it comes to colorism. And when I tell you, that tweet went so viral on X, it ended up getting over 100,000 likes, millions of views, and so much hate. Like hate that I thought was really concerning, considering the fact that what I'm saying, in my opinion, is pretty simple. I think people get very uncomfortable with conversations around colorism and talking about the experiences of dark-skinned women, but that is something that is really of interest to my work, and I'm not backing down because of it. So I am fully aware that every single woman is held to a standard that she must always be presented as perfect, but if we can understand that things work in a continuum, then we should be able to understand that dark-skinned people are also experiencing a more severe form of it. If we can accept that Black women are held to a higher standard than white women, then I don't understand how we can't see how in the Black community, dark-skinned women are going to be held to a higher standard than lighter or light-skinned women. Some people decided to edit my tweet and say you only love girls when the body is tea, and take out the fact that I mentioned dark skin, but that is literally erasure. And I am a dark-skinned person talking about how dark-skinned women are expected to be essentially very perfect physically, mentally, emotionally, and all of the above. Somehow on Twitter, people had thought that I was talking about Olandria, who prior to that tweet, I didn't know who she was. I'm not watching Love Island. I've only watched 2 Love Islands ever. I watched the one with Serena. I also watched Love Island UK with India and Dami. And the only reason I watched both of those was because I knew the dark-skinned women were doing well in both of those Love Islands. So I don't know anything about this newest Love Island, but people were assuming that I was jealous of Olandria, which I don't really understand why. Some of those fans are kind of scary. And they were saying that Olandria praise was getting to me, and that was the reason I was tweeting it out of jealousy. But if y'all know my work, you guys know I've been talking about colorism prior to Love Island. Yeah, I've been talking about colorism for a really long time. I actually just tweet about colorism nonstop and talk about colorism nonstop because that's my work. But because of that, it had me more curious about this Love Island dynamic and other celebrities who are held to standards where they have to be physically perfect to be seen as the acceptable kind of dark skin. Somehow through this tweet, a lot of Love Island fans decided to say I was ugly and put up a picture of me next to Jana, like Miss World versus Thames from Wish, to say that in contrast, I was an uglier version compared to Jana. And other people said I was the head of the miserable, insecure, moral superiority complex mammies. Anya, I was called a mammy, y'all. I was called a mammy for this tweet. Yeah, and people were calling me ape-gerian, like to be insulting, like black girls. I don't know if they're really Black people online, who knows? But people who had images of Black girls were calling me ape-gerian, like an ape, because I spoke on the fact that dark-skinned people are held to a higher standard. And there was this one tweet that I think really really showed the mentality of people who are pushing up against my original post. And someone said, dark-skinned women have bad media representation. I rather for a hot dark-skinned girl with a banging body represent dark-skinned women than an ugly, out-of-shape one. Why is everyone allowed to have good representation but dark-skinned women? And I think that there's this like movement online of girls who feel like dark-skinned women have terrible representation, and the terrible representation that they have in mind is anyone who is not very skinny. And so this tweet kind of I feel like it's saying the quiet part out loud, which is people do not want to see dark-skinned women if they are not very skinny and their body is not giving like a really stereotypically curvy, skinny body. A couple weeks ago, I did a workshop on colorism where I was talking about when you're dark skinned, there's often like a balancing scale that happens. I feel like people feel like there's this feeling that if you're dark skinned, you have to be very skinny and your body has to be very like perfect, as in skinny and curvy, right? And when I say perfect, I don't mean perfect to me. I'm talking about Eurocentric standards of beauty, right? So like a stereotypically curvy, skinny body. And it also feels like if you're dark skinned, you can't have your natural hair out, or you can't have very black features. Like there's always a balancing act where something has to give. Either it's your hair, either it's your weight, either it's your features, or your skin color. Like there's always this feeling that when you're dark skinned, it is already a mark against you, and you have to overcompensate by being either like really friendly, bubbly, having very straight long hair, having, getting a nose job, having a smaller nose, having thinner features. There's just this feeling that there's things that you have to do to overcompensate for being dark skinned. And if there's anything that I want people to get away with this message, is that this form of aspiring towards perfection within dark skin representation will not save you. Being a perfect dark skin person, being the token dark skin person, it will not save you. And some of y'all might have to go through life and learn that lesson yourself, because maybe me saying it isn't going to give that. But as someone who at some point of my life really aspired towards that, I was having weave, I was not having healthy eating habits, I was doing all these things just to maintain being the very skinny dark-skinned girl in a friend group, and it was actually destroying my mental health. Some of you guys know I have a past of modeling. I modeled in Germany, I modeled in London. I had experience modeling, and in that phase of me trying to be a quote unquote the perfect token dark skinned person, my mental health was doing really terribly. And I think a lot of celebrities also align themselves with this expectation that if you are dark skinned, you have to be perfect. Because as we both see in media, there's an active erasure of dark skinned women in media. So the few dark skinned women that do get through have to become these almost like superhero kind of women who make no mistakes, always seem really friendly, always seem really nice. And if they don't, the minute that they step away from those expectations, they are incredibly demonized. A video who I think like perfectly depicts this is this supermodel called Precious Lee. And in the video, she is trying to get her shots on some red carpet. And she asks this girl who is behind her, hey, do you think you can like leave my video so I can get these pictures that I want? And the pictures ended up being stunning.
Over your shoulder!
And the way that people were critiquing her so much simply because she asked for this girl to leave the video in a respectful way, people were saying that she was really like big-headed and she was really arrogant and like all these things about her simply because she asked somebody to leave. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, what version did you want her? How did you want her to say it in a way that was more polite than how she said it? Did y'all want her to be like, excuse me, white woman, please, do you mind if you can please just simply leave my video, please? Like, she asked, the girl left. I didn't think it was a big deal. But it also just shows how easy it is for people to see dark-skinned women as angelic or perfect and wonderful and then demonizing them. So I'm not watching Love Island this new season, but because everybody was bringing up Olandria with my last tweet, I wanted to get a better understanding of her and do a little bit of research about her. So Olandria is on this show called Love Island, and I am not watching Love Island, but I have seen some clips to kind of better understand the dynamic. People seem to really, really like Olandria, and she seems like a very likable person. And people were just like, her body is perfect, her body is amazing, have y'all seen her body? And there's something that happens within colorism where people hyperfixate on the bodies of dark-skinned women, almost as if like that has to be the way you introduce her. Like when I heard people talking about this other girl on a show called Huda, is that her name? People were saying that she was very pretty. They would lead with her being pretty and her being cool and people thinking that she's funny. But it's like, why is it with Olandria, the first thing that people are talking about is her body and not her face? Because you and I can both see her face is very, very stunning. She's a very pretty girl. But I feel like people were leading with the fact that her body is really nice and she has like abs and she has like all these other things that benefit within desirability. And it comes down to the fact that people see dark-skinned women as laborers, right? So talking first about their body in this kind of way, like their body, like it's a way of kind of like objectifying them to being this is the most important thing. This is the thing. It's almost like the only thing that people are seeing with Olandria is the body. And it's annoying to me because her face is very pretty, right? Like her face is stunning. And there was a lot of discourse online around Olandria's features because a lot of people thought she was Nigerian, myself included. Like when I first saw the image of her, I was like, okay, cool. Like, and then I found out like, oh, she's African American. And I'm like, this is so, this is also things I've talked about on my channel where there are such little representation of dark-skinned African American people in media that when people see a deep dark-skinned person or a dark-skinned person in general, when people see a dark-skinned person, they're quicker to think that she is of West African descent before then they're thinking of she's African American. And that just shows how severe colorism is functioning in the US. And Olandria has very West African features, hence why so many people thought that she was Nigerian. But there also just feels like there's a division between the face and the body and how people are more inclined to compliment her body before her face because her face is very West African coded. Her face is someone who she looks fully black. She is a fully black, gorgeous girl. So other celebrities who I feel like are very aware of this expectation that dark-skinned people have to be held to higher standards, especially when it comes to physicality, is someone like Doechii. Doechii mops the floor of a lot of artists when it comes to music. And if women were only judged off of music, Doechii would be, in my opinion, the supreme person leading it. But unfortunately, women in hip hop are expected to be stunning and skinny and have a specific body shape. If they're not very skinny, they have to have a BBL and all these other expectations to be able to have even a chance, a fighting chance of being in media, which is really terrible. And even though you have your celebrities like Lizzo, who originally came into the scene as a fat black woman, the amount of hatred that Lizzo has gotten on the internet and in media is so horrendous. Like, I don't think anyone has experienced so much hatred online like Lizzo. And Lizzo is not even a dark-skinned woman. She's just a monoracially black woman, and she experienced so much anti-fatness simply because people do not like to see fat women. And you know how we talk about like that one tweet that said, oh yeah, I don't want a fat woman as a representation of blackness. That's the reason that people had issues with that statue in New York, because they don't like the idea of someone who's not very skinny being in that statue. They just don't like the fact that a representation of dark skin or black or monoracial forms of beauty is going to be anybody but a skinny person. And I am here once again to try and knock it into the heads of some hard-headed people that being skinny will not protect you from the harshness of desirability. Skinniness will not protect you from colorism. Skinniness will not protect you from anti-blackness. Like, it gives some grace, it gives some space to you, but the solution isn't for everybody to be skinny. Right? Like, the way that we want only skinny people to exist, like, the solution isn't for everybody to be skinny. Skinniness is not a marker of health. And I want to talk about like Serena Williams, because I'm somebody who has liked Serena Williams since I was a teenager. And I remember seeing, and obviously we can all admit that Serena Williams has changed a lot aesthetically and looks wise from the 90s to how we see her today. In my opinion, she appears to have gotten lighter. But when I talk about Serena Williams, I'm talking about that dark-skinned person from the 2000s, right? And Serena Williams, I remember during the time that she was very popular online, I remember in the 2000s, 2010, I was listening to the radio station V103 to be specific. And I don't remember who was on the recall like who was talking, but they were talking about the fact that Serena Williams was dating Common. And they were like, you know, oh, Serena Williams is so lucky to be with Common. Like, Common is so cute. They were like giving their props to Common. And then someone said, well, at least Serena has a body. Like, at least Serena has a body. And I remember during that time, everybody was always talking about Serena Williams's body, like how curvy she is, with how thick she was. Her face, like, how did people, like, it really angered me how the only redeemable element of Serena Williams to a lot of people was her body. And I can't help but notice that the people who y'all don't want to compliment their face or see their face as like actually gorgeous is people who typically have West African features, or who are monoracially and look fully black. Like, that is when somehow the conversation, the fixation becomes about the body and less about anything else. Like, I see what you are. I know what you are. Just because you're trying to hide it by, you know, oh, it's still a compliment. Complimenting someone's body is still a compliment. No, it's not. If all you see is a body, you don't see a face, that's not a compliment. Like, you're seeing the labor, you're sexualizing it, right? You're seeing, it becomes an exotic thing. You're seeing what she can do for you instead of who she is. And I know what you are, yeah. But I just think anti-fatness is just something that is so destructive, and I don't think people realize how bad it is. Like, I think there are a lot of people who think, well, if every dark-skinned girl was just skinny, then we would get treated better, and if we're treated better, then maybe colorism wouldn't exist. But it's like, this is so harmful to say. And like I said already, being skinny is not a marker of health. You can be a fat person and be healthy. And let's also be honest that a lot of people who are anti-fat, they don't care about health. So let's not act like we care about health, because we don't really care about health. We care about aesthetics. We care about the aesthetics of health. And it's so important for us to listen to anti-fat activists and anti-fat creators who speak on it, because it's all connected. Like, understanding how dark-skinnedness, anti-fatness, anti-blackness, colorism, ableism, all of these systems are connected. And so when you understand how harmful, if you're doing one of those things, it's going to seep into the other thing, it's so important that we know that. But yes, let me know if y'all noticed this. This is just something that I've really seen for a while, which is that dark-skinned people have to be perfect. The body gotta be T for people to respect, for people to see you as gorgeous, as worthy of. And even with all them things, even with the body being T, you will still most likely have a horrible experience the minute you stop being who they think you should be, which is friendly, emotionally caring, do the emotional labor for someone. They're gonna see you as the demon. They're gonna see you as the meanie. They're gonna see you as a mean person, because people really believe that dark-skinned people, in their heart, in their core, they believe that dark-skinned people are mean, are aggressive, are angry, are jealous. And those things constantly come out with how we communicate about dark-skinned people. If it's not direct, it's indirect. So yes, if you made it to the end, tell me what you like about my video. Also, guys, get into my makeup. I'm so proud of myself. Can you see? Yes. Get into the makeup. Get into the mug. Yes. And let me know if y'all like my throw. Where is it? Over here. Yes.